Welcome back, everybody. We're the Three Stooges: Joe Davidson, Sacramento Bee, Chris Jackson, West Coast Preps, who's got his West Virginia hat on, and the bearded great wonder, Georgeson of Gold Country Media. I'm always going to bring up the beard because we would kill for a beard like that. So kudos to that. We talk high school sports in the CIF, the California Interscholastic Federation. That's the governing body for high schools. Always a lot of good storylines to talk about, but we will also touch on topics of interest: transfers, open division, competitive equity, bad behavior by players or fans, or sometimes stooges, things like that. But we're going to kick it around. We have the CIF State Basketball Championships are here, guys, and it's at Golden One Center here in Sacramento. We're going to touch on the Sacramento area Sac-Joaquin Section teams that are still here. Another topic of note is Ryder Lyons, the five-star football recruit from Folsom High School, the national recognized quarterback star, had a recruiting trip to Sacramento State, an FCS team. Is that a ploy? Is that some kind of stunt? We're going to dig on that. I just think it's really kind of cool. We're going to touch on a terrific academic scholar, student athlete that Chris Jackson talked to from the Oak Grove Unified. We want to highlight the achievers, and so much more. And we'll pick Jordan's brain, what's going on, what he's seeing in some of the spring sports. I think he's going to come down to the state basketball finals. I'll be there as well, Chris Jackson as well. But let's jump right into hoops really fast before we bounce around. I saw Jesuit last night win Division II over Destiny Christian of Sacramento, the former Capital Christian. Great defensive effort. We'll touch on that in a moment. But I'm going to defer to you really quick, Chris Jackson. You were at a small school place up in Yuba City where it was packed. It was happening. There was star power. What happened? What'd you see? Who was signing autographs? And why is this team not in a state final?
So Division 6 is one of those divisions where you look at it, you just go to the CIF website itself and you see there's a NorCal final, but you don't see a SoCal one, right? So you're not going to see Faith Christian get another shot at Golden One like they got to play there 2 weeks ago where they won a section title. But small school excellence, right? Small school hoops can ball. Small schools are as great as anywhere, especially in the section, right? We've looked at Bradsaw Christian football, Houston football, Escalon, Sutter. Remember Sutter softball last year? That just generational team. And Faith Christian's girls basketball team could compete with some bigger teams, I would say, especially when you've got a girl like Lauren Harris who has said that she has a San Francisco State offer, hit 8 more three-pointers in the NorCal final just days after she hits 9, and she is a junior, and she is California's all-time career record holder for made threes and broke the single season record. But to be a junior and be a career record holder is unbelievable. And her last one was a one-footed floater for a three. It just, I'm sitting there, I'm looking at one of our friends, Stephen Bryla. I'm just laughing as she's making these shots. It's like you watch Steve Kerr coach Steph Curry, and he's just throwing his hands up in the air like this, just laughing really hard. And that's the way I felt too watching this. I don't know if I deserve the privilege to cover and watch her or Presley Berry there block 7 shots, but they're going to be moving up the division next year because of that sustained success model. And I would still make them a favorite, but for now they should enjoy this. And I hope that they got some of those good blizzards at Dairy Queen they talked about last night.
That's too cool. And Lauren Harris can dominate a game as a 5'11" guard without dominating the ball. She had 45 points, I think, in a semifinal and 7 assists. So, Jordan, really quick here. We only have a handful of teams left. We have Jesuit in Division II in a state championship, Woodland Christian Girls in a Division 5 state championship at a Yolo County. They're going to tip off all the action on Friday at 10 a.m. Lincoln-Stockton Boys Division 1 on Friday night. Faith Christian Girls won a NorCal title but do not advance. That's as far as it goes. As you know, Jordan, with the Colfax Falcons of Placer County, the girls, they were the only local boys or girls team, immediate Sacramento, each of the past 2 years to get there. They didn't get there this year. The point is, it's hard to get to the final game. And too many people on social media will say, well, they sucked. Well, no, they didn't. And it is hard to navigate these waters in the most populated state in the union. And Jordan, you can speak of that. So these teams that are still there should be applauded. Win or lose, they've already won a lot.
Absolutely. And one I want to give a shout out to also, it's not in our section, but Carruthers. I mean, we talk about Colfax and their staying power. Carruthers, I think this was their third NorCal title appearance in 4 years or 5 years, something like that. But what a lot of people kind of forget too, yeah, they were the top seed in D2, but their enrollment is something like 648. It's right around what Colfax is. So the last D2 NorCal champs for girls have been small public schools that are smaller than this, divisions enrollment typically. So I want to give a shout out to that because that's just an awesome story. And, these small public schools having the staying power like this, you don't often see it. And in a world of high school sports that's dominated by the private schools, I mean, even with what we're looking at with some of these championship games, it's kind of a breath of fresh air in some of these higher divisions to see a public school, up there and battling for it. So shout out to Carruthers for that. But yeah, it's hard to get to this point. And I mean, I shared with you guys a comment that was left on our page earlier today on our Gold Country Media site where someone was asking about why a lot of these teams that are left playing didn't win their section titles. And the point is, it's hard to win a section title. It's hard to win a state title. But the way it works is if you are top four in this section or a semifinalist in this section in divisions 1 through 5, you automatically make it to the state tournament. And a counterpoint to yeah, maybe we could just let section champions in, but I mean, think of March Madness every year. Is the national champion a team that won their conference all the time? Are the Final Four teams the teams that were winning their conference? Not always. So, I mean, I think that's a case in point to that's how the sport goes. I mean, the Super Bowl champion isn't always a division champion, World Series champion, same with that. And I think it's just like this, where, yeah, it's hard to win a state title. It's hard to win a section title. And a lot of times the teams that get to state titles aren't going to be the teams that won section titles because that's how good the competition is in this state.
That's well said, well said. And we look at the Jesuit Marauders, and Jordan, you covered this game. I covered this game. Chris Jackson covered this game when the Jesuit Marauders were in the Section Division II championship and lost in the final frantic, wild seconds to Rockland. Rockland gets the #1 seed in Division II, goes 1-1, and they're out. Jesuit gets new life, and here they are. They celebrated that championship, the Marauders, last night, like it really meant something. They clutched onto that championship plaque. We've all been in Jesuit's gym. We got championship banners since the school opened in Carmichael in 1963. So they appreciate these things. Lincoln and Stockton didn't even get to a section final, but they're going to play for a Division I championship on Friday night. Woodland Christian girls were overwhelmed the last time the Cardinals of Yolo County were in at Golden One, but survived it, and now they're here. So it's how you respond and how you recover, and it's a real credit to the players and the coaches and all those things. All right, before we dig into more on hoops and other storylines and why it's worth going out there to check it out or check it out on NFHS, Ryder Lyons, football star, quarterback deluxe, Folsom Bulldogs, was on the campus of Sacramento State last week in uniform, Hornets gear, on a recruiting trip. That is the highest recruited player, highest known player to ever step on campus as a recruit in the history of that program. Sac State started football in 1954. And I talked to Coach Doherty yesterday, the Folsom football coach, Paul Doherty, and he said, I think it's great. They had 15 Folsom kids going for a visit. The new football coach at Sac State and their staff, Brennan Marion, they said right from the get-go, we're going to recruit everybody. If you're a five-star guy like Ryder Lyons, he mentioned him in name when he got first hired, he goes, we're going to talk to you. And so I applaud that. Zoe Edwards, we know how good he is. The sophomore, 6'6" leaping wonder, beat Rockland in a section football championship with a winning touchdown grab in the late seconds for the Grant Pacers. He took a recruiting trip there. And there's more. I think it's excellent. Does it mean he's going to go? But no, you network. And so that's really kind of refreshing and cool. And kudos to Ryder Lyons, who's a man for everybody for every season. So that I thought that was really kind of cool. And they got the best recruiting class at the FCS level. For those who don't know, there's the FBS, which is the teams that play in the major bowl games, and then there's the FCS, which is Sacramento State, Cal Poly, UC Davis. Still fantastic football and all that. But Chris Jackson, how cool was that?
I mean, they've got 11 3-stars committed in the 26 class if you just go on 247. And if you think of 3-stars, those are usually guys going, to the FBS level? A lot of them Power 4. But Sac State is one of those programs, as you've done great reporting, Joe, with facilities, upgrading, moving up to FBS, all that stuff, and NIL. And if you're some of these players, why wouldn't you take the college visit anyway? Especially if it's in your backyard. You've got a guy like Brennan Marion, who I would say is on a fast track to coaching at a really high level in the next few years. And maybe he stays at Sac State long term. I don't know, but we just don't know. But he's that good of a mind. He's got the go-go offense, and the list of visitors he had yesterday. Vlad Diakonoff, the great tackle from Folsom, whose offer list is just skyrocketing. I think he's become a 4-star now. Suni Avuki, who was at Casa Roble, now at Folsom. He's a section champion lineman. Brody Rudnicki, who's another 3-star quarterback at Folsom. Zoe Edwards was there. Grant's 3-star tackle, Roger Vanderhef, who's 6'8", 340 pounds, visits too. And Jamison Powell, one of Ryder Lyons' best friends and receivers, who he's taken college visits with to the South and the SEC back in August. I remember I went to a practice. They weren't there because it was a defensive day. And Paul Doherty was like, yeah, of course, go take those college visits that day. It's okay if you miss a defensive day. You do enough for us anyway. That's another kid. You get Jamison Powell on campus. So Sacramento State doing a heck of a job snagging these guys. They've got the great local commitments. Isaiah Iney from Granite Bay, who's just a two-way force. Luke Gaylor, a 6'6" kid, a good basketball player too, out of Del Oro, which I know that Jordan covers a lot of the time as well. So that great program.
Lano over at Intercom is committed, and Jordan. We also applaud the junior colleges, and we look at Sierra College in Placer County and Sacramento City College with the great Hughes Stadium, and American River College with John Osterhout, the longtime coach there, and the JCs have spring football tackles, live action spring football that is going to be starting anytime. Same with Sac State and UC Davis. So football is always in the air. There are places for people to go. And we've said this many times, if you can play and if you could play anywhere, go where you fit and where you can play, and don't worry about trying to impress your buddies and your homies and where you're going to go. But Jordan, we have all kinds of guys who go to these local JCs, and because of the transfer portal and recruiting, I think the JC football is going to be better this fall than ever. And it's been really good in recent years.
Absolutely is. I mean, just thinking of a few guys in this area that haven't picked up D1 offers yet that, I've seen in person, feel like they're Division I caliber kids. I mean, Baylor Kelly out of Placer. Yeah, maybe he's a little undersized, but I've watched that kid play varsity football for 3 years, and I'm sorry, but from what I've seen in person, what he's put on tape, you can't tell me that kid isn't going to be playing at the D1 level someday. Braden Ward over at 12 Bridges, I think that's a kid that has potential to be a Division I kid one day. Whit Cruz, the 12 Bridges quarterback a few years ago, spent last year at San Mateo College. He's going to be at American River this year. And a lot of it is just getting looks. I mean, Sac State signed Dante Robinson out of Sierra College. He's a kid that came from Washington. He ran a wing T offense in high school, and he was I think 6'5" receiver. Insane athleticism, great kid. I've interviewed him a few times, and Sac State gave him an offer, but he's a kid that would have gotten a D1 offer out of high school if he didn't go to a school that ran a wing T. So sometimes, that's just how things work out. And one thing to mention about this Ryder Lyons visit, all these people are like, oh, he's just taking it to get out of class. There's no way he's actually going to sign there, stuff like that. Well, a couple things to remember. One, and this stings a little bit to bring up as a Florida State fan, but no one thought Travis Hunter was going to flip from Florida State to Jackson State on signing day. He was the #1 recruit in the country. And yes, I know Deion Sanders was there, but Brendan Marion's a great recruiter as well, just like Deion is. And no one thought that flip was going to happen. That was the #1 player in the country. Or another case in point, how many of these great 4 or 5-star players go to a school like an Ole Miss, a USC, whatever it is? Maybe they realize it's not what it's cut out to be, and sometimes they end up bouncing back to an FCS school so they can get playing time and put something on tape. So, this recruiting trip too isn't necessarily just for, I'm not saying that's going to happen with Ryder, but this is a situation where maybe Ryder signs somewhere and decides, hey, this isn't what I want it to be. Maybe I'm a little homesick, something like that. He comes home to Sac State. So these recruiting trips and these visits are a big deal because you never know, like you say, it's networking. What connections can be made and what can be made in the future and down the road.
This is great. And as we close out on Ryder Lyons, we also applaud that good man for playing basketball. I saw an incredible clip on Ryder Lyons in the warm-ups against De La Salle and NorCal Open semifinal on Saturday. He did a reverse dunk, and his head's right up there by the rim. And I went, wow, he's 6'3", 235 pounds. Coach Doherty says he's a beast in the weight room as well. And I also asked Coach Doherty yesterday, the Folsom coach, and so let's just debunk some theories and rumors and speculation and rampant idiocy that runs around with people insisting that they have all the answers. Is Ryder Lyons going to play his senior year at Folsom this fall? Yes, he is. Is he going to go on a Mormon mission like his older brother Walker Lyons, who did 2 years and now is at USC on football scholarship? Yes, may only be 1 year, but he's going to do those things. Is he 19 years old? I had an Oak Ridge assistant coach lecture me before a championship game saying there are 15 players at Oak Ridge or at Folsom who are 19 years old. Not true.
Show me
Not
the
true.
proof.
So,
I'll let you show us the proof, right? And you know what?
yeah, I mean, it's just,
Let's stop spreading
it's
rumors.
just,
Let's
yeah,
stop
yeah.
spreading rumors with kids. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yes, we're going to touch on the surviving teams in the Sac-Joaquin section in the state basketball finals, some other storylines and players to look for. The sons of NBA players. LeBron James might be coming for a visit. He probably should. He's not playing right now. He has a son playing. Gilbert Arenas has a son who's going to be taking on Jesuit. But Jackson just texted Jordan and me and said he's got some kind of breaking news. Hey, we're all about it. So what'd you get? What's going on? Who's moving? Who's shaking? What's the deal?
Literally got the email at 10:56. I can't believe I didn't see this before we hop on the podcast. Just the silly stooge right here. Glanced at there was email late, but got the email and one of the texts from one of my coworkers is Mike Saya, the great boys basketball head coach at Marin Catholic out in the Bay Area after 15 years at the helm. He's retiring. Calling it quits. A great
Yeah.
career there. He's played a lot of Sac-Joaquin section teams throughout the years. His daughter has coached at Marin Catholic, won section titles, and now Marin Catholic's girls. His daughter Ashley is not the head coach anymore, but she will still be there this weekend to watch Marin Catholic's girls go for history at Golden One. They said they will be there, so anybody sees the Saya family, sees Mike, go congratulate him because he's one of the great guys in the business and was always
No.
doing things the right way there.
No, that's excellent. I'm going to throw back to Jordan here. I think it's not official. It hasn't been announced. I think he's going to wait until the whole entire high school basketball season is over. But I'm guessing and sensing, and I think Jordan is on the same page with me, that Steve Taylor of the Rockland Thunder up in Placer County is probably going to call it a career. Uh, Great coach, had a state championship run in 2009 with Brendan Lane, 2,000 point career scorer, played overseas professionally. And then he has his next great team in the last couple of years. And Mark Lavenraw becomes the all-time career scorer. I think it's a perfect time if he wants to step down. I think Jeff Harder is left as the athletic director to be the top assistant to make that a seamless transition. But Jordan, you've talked to Steve Taylor a ton over the years. I have too, one of the great guys. He has done a fantastic job. He was ecstatic after that playoff win to win the section championship at Golden One against Jesuit, and you could see everything came together the way he wanted. And I'm not so sure how many more years Mike Wall has at Folsom. I think he's probably going to come back because he's got some pretty good returning players. But Jordan, have you heard anything about Steve Taylor? Is anything official? Are you holding on? Is he holding on? What do you got on that?
Haven't heard anything yet. And actually, Chris and I were talking about this on the phone the other day, too, of kind of just waiting to see when or if that announcement is going to come. I mean, I'm not going to put any thoughts into Taylor's head here. If he comes back next year, I think Rockland would welcome him back with open arms after the year he had. But how do you not ride off into the sunset with this group? I mean, they won your first section championship in 16 years. They got you to the NorCal quarterfinals. You got the top seed in Division II. And I mean, they're without their starting point guard in that quarterfinal game against Clayton Valley. So you could almost argue how deep would this run have gone if they had him. I think Clayton Valley still would have been a close game. But again, a great group at Rockland, one that's going to be memorialized forever. I mean, Mark Lavernov, we talked about, he set the single season and career scoring mark at Rockland this year, 802 points on the year, 2,177 in his prep career. I mean, that's hard to do in today's day and age. It feels like this would be a perfect group to ride off into the sunset with. And like you said, Jeff Harder stepped down from that athletic director role at the beginning of this school year and was the top assistant. Feels like an easy transition. And the SFL could have a lot of coaching turnover. I mean, Jeff Broyles stepped away at Del Oro. He's been there for a long time, led him to a section championship game and NorCal semifinal run last year. Mike Wall, another great one. And these SFL jobs don't open often, and we're in a world where maybe 3 of them could be open this offseason or this offseason and next offseason against 3 of the teams that have been some of the bigger names in that league. But yeah, I think If I had to guess, I would say Taylor, was his last hurrah. He retired from teaching last year and was just coaching, and everyone told me it could go one of two ways. He could coach 1 year without teaching and realize, hey, I think I'm done. I think that was all I have left. I'm retired. Or I could also see there being a world where Steve Taylor's like, I can give everything to coaching now because I don't have to do any teaching. But yeah, I mean, how do you not ride off in the sunset with this group?
And the thing
Well,
with coaches is coaches will say a lot of times, I'm done, I'm tired. I've seen coaches all the time say, oh, this is going to be it for me. 5 years later, they're still here. They fall in love with the new group of kids. And Steve Taylor's competitive, right? But if he decides to ride off into the sunset, I mean, what a freaking career.
great career. And here's one thing about guys like Jeff Broyles of Del Oro and Steve Taylor of Rockland and so many other guys. They coached for a long time, then they took a couple of years off. And it's so important to kind of recharge. But they were fortunate that they were able to regain their position. A lot of times, if you step down, you're not going to get that job back. And wouldn't that be cool if every coach would kind of take a couple of years off and catch their breath? Sometimes you see it in football. We think about Mike Albergini, the late great football coach, 282 game winner for the Grant Pacers, and he thought about retiring 50 times over the years. And what always brought him back is the kids would come up to him and say, Coach, when are you going to open the weight room? Coach, can you help me with this recruiting paperwork and help me with a counselor? They feel obligated. That's what they do. That's who they are. So that's interesting. I'm going to touch on another great person and coach that this region lost. Ross Evans was a longtime teacher and coach at Jesuit High School. They had a celebration of life for him on campus on Sunday. A lot of people there, former players, longtime assistant coach, 40 years in football, biology teacher, athletic director, one of the classy good guys. And when Jesuit had their powerhouse breakthrough teams in the 90s, it was his offensive line that he coached. That was paramount. So, a whirlwind of emotion for Jesuit in the last few days, losing a good man in Ross Evans from just illness and old age, although he was only 72, and then winning the championship. In normal, healthier times, Ross Evans would have been celebrating and jumping with that rooting section. So really kind of cool. Celebration of life for Mike Albergini, the great Grant coach, will be March 22nd at Mike Albergini Field at Grant High School. I think it's around 1 o'clock. And people from the community are invited to go out. There's going to be a lot of speakers, video testimonials, emotions. Going to be a great thing. What a way to do it. Do it in his stadium. So, all right, let's talk some hoops. First of all, why are the state finals always at Golden One? We hear from the California coaches, Southern California coaches, well, why aren't these down here in Southern California? Put in your bids, submit venue bids. That's what the CIF does. Why isn't the state football finals? Why aren't those up in Sacramento? Well, they were for about 3 or 4 years, a few years ago, because Sacramento State had a better bid. And why is state track and field always in Buchanan and in Fresno? Because they always win the bidding. Golden One Center and before Golden One, Old Arc Arena, where the Kings played, always had the best bids. And the CIF governing body has a nice deal of sorts with the Kings, whether it's the Maloof ownership group or Rivette, to get a good deal on the venue. And so the CIF, whether it's the section playoffs, NorCal or state for basketball, they want to have that wow factor. So kudos to Golden One for still winning all of that and running away with it. But all right, let's talk hoops. Woodland Christian girls, we touched on them. They're going to start off the action on Friday. They're coached by a lawyer who's pretty cool. He's got a Sorbello and they got a daughter who's a pretty good player. So this is new history for them. Football went 15-0 a couple of years ago. Romello Bruins, a section leading scorer, junior 6'3" guard for the boys team that won a section championship. So Woodland Christian for a small school is doing big things. Chris Jackson, Lincoln-Stockton boys in a Division I state final, did not win a section championship, battle tested 2 great games against Modesto Christian. What is that team all about? Who to look for the Trojans of Lincoln?
Wait, there's just star power everywhere when you look at these games, especially when we're going to get into these D1 and D2 boys games. We've got sons of NBA players, but first off, Lincoln, you've got Anthony Moore, the Weber State-bound senior, who can score 20, 30 points a game. I saw him hit a game winner against Vanden 2 months ago at Monterey Trails Saturday showcase. As soon as he dribbled down the court, you just knew right away. It's Anthony Moore. He's going to hit this, right? He's an MVP candidate, Athlete of the Year candidate in NorCal. he's a star. He's going to Damian Lillard's alma mater too. So you're obviously doing something right. And not to put any pressure, but maybe he's the next Damian Lillard. Maybe that next guy that kind of slips through the cracks of bigger schools and goes there, right? But he's one of those stars. He's got a great freshman next to him, Trey Simmons, who is, of course, Lincoln. A great program, well coached. They've got more young stars coming up. You've got Denez Lindsay, another kid that just does it all. Now, when you go to like computer rankings, Lincoln is technically the favorite computer rankings wise, but Sierra Canyon, we've seen them so many times in the open finals. I remember going there with my father in 2019 after I graduated college, and I'm watching Kenyon Martin's son, Scottie Pippen's son. You had Amari Bailey, whose dad, Arn Tellem, is a huge agent. You had Scottie Pippen Jr., Kenyon Martin Jr., all these guys are courtside. Now they're a D1 team with immense amounts of talent. They have got I mean, they've got a 4-star in the junior class, Maximo Adams, 16 offers, BYU, Kansas, Oregon among those, number 71 nationally in this class. You've got some 3-stars in this class as well. Bryce Cofield going to, he's he, he's another 3-star recruit. He's got an offer. You've got Gavin Hightower, an Iona commit, and then you've got Bryce James, the son of LeBron James, the 4-time NBA champion, who some call the greatest of all time. His son, a 3-star prospect going to Arizona, and he gets to play in this game. So this is, I think this game kind of sells itself. Friday night, there's no better place to be than Golden One Center, especially a beautiful venue, great restaurants on the exterior there too. Why wouldn't you want to be here?
I know it. It's a great way to cap the high school season. The Jesuit Marauders are the NorCal Division II champs, first NorCal championship for that storied program since they repeated as Division I NorCal champs in 1993-94. Those teams were coached by Hank Meyer. I was a young reporter then. Great teams, all-time teams. Isaac Fontaine, State Player of the Year, Sacramento Bee Player of the Year, set scoring records at Washington State, long NBA or a pro career. So the Marauders play Saturday at 4, and they take on Chatsworth of Los Angeles County, a public school. And that team is led by Elijah Arenas. He's a 6'6 junior shooting guard, averaging 30.4 points a game. He's one of the top talents in the country. He's going to USC to play for Eric Musselman. And oh, by the way, his father, Gilbert Arenas, was quite a prolific player in his NBA time. And last year in a state final, younger Arenas had 44 points. So here's Jesuit Jordan, who has to take on, the biggest defensive challenge of the year. They dealt with Mark Lavinarov of Rockland. They dealt with Chase Collins of Folsom and other guys in that league. Now they get this dude. But what a great challenge! And Jordan, you having seen Jesuit, I don't think the Marauders fear anything or anybody, but they're going to have their hands full with this guy. But then again, Arenas is going to have his hands full with that terrific defense.
It really comes down to, these are two different programs. Chatsworth really rides behind their star. Jesuit really uses kind of all hands on deck when they play. I've seen Jesuit shut down some star scorers. Obviously, Arenas is going to be a whole different ballgame, but they're going to do their homework, and the Marauders are going to be ready to play. The Galley crew is going to be filling up that student section, and they are going to be loud, just as they were with Golden One Center when Rockland played them there. Chatsworth, a great program. They were in that D4 title last year. What's crazy about Arenas, this is how good his performance was last year. There were people asking for his autograph as he walked back into the press conference after the game. The kid was a sophomore last year. I mean, who knows if he even had his driver's license yet? Gilbert might have been driving him to the arena still. And kids are asking for his autograph. I mean, that's how prolific he is already. That's going to be a great game. I mean, really, this whole slate this weekend is going to be fantastic, but that Chatsworth Jesuit game is one that I had my eye on. I'm really interested to see how that one goes down and what Jesuit's answer is for Arenas, and also kind of seeing how Arenas has matured as a player a little bit with a year. Last year, I think he had that 50-plus point game. But he was kind of the only one doing the scoring there. I want to see how his game has evolved, if he's still the primary scorer or maybe if he's dishing it out a little more. And I want to see how Jesuit's kind of going to combat that and see what they're going to throw at him defensively. They've been a great defensive team all year, so that's going to be a great matchup.
The big thing about Elijah is he's
Yes.
really beefed up the passing numbers too, right? He's averaging now 4 assists per game, really bumped it up. Their last game too, he scored 23 below his average of 30.4, right? I mean, just what a What a travesty of a performance for him scoring rise, only getting 23. But Aaron Kruger, 11, two other guys, 10 points. One of his teammates, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks. He's the city section's all-time leading scorer and done that in 3 years. Now, this will be his last ever high school game because he's reclassified from 26 to 25. But what a way to go out. And we all get the pleasure to watch someone that scored 61 points in a game last month play for a state title against Jesuit, who's got the great Asher Schroeder, who is fears nobody, works harder than everybody. And Maury McKinney, Mason Phillips is a great freshman. And then Luke Brown has just really stepped up, hit the dagger against Clovis East. And I don't think that NBA 3-point line will make much of a difference for him. A lot of kids they see that NBA 3-point line and everything changes. I think that's a kid where he sees that and heck, he probably hits 4 or 5 threes.
Well, and Jesuit has a little familiarity with Golden One, so they're not going to be bugged out by the moment and the nerves. They've already experienced that, and so all of these games are Friday and Saturday. Check out the state website, the CIFstate.org. Well, let's go working backwards. The girls' open division is two powerhouses, Etiwanda taking on Midi of San Jose. Midi is in its fifth Open Division final. The great Sue Phillips. She's 800 game winner. Chris Jackson. She was not able to talk to the media last night after a fantastic win over an unbeaten team from the Fresno area because of something with her family. What do you hear about that? And fingers crossed that everything's okay.
Well, there was a medical emergency there in the gym. I think late in the game. I want to say I know Greg was there, but there was a medical emergency late. Sue could not do the interview, obviously. Completely understands. I mean, there's more important things than needing to do an interview after a game. She's one of the great ambassadors of the game. All she does for women's basketball, right? Team USA stuff, coaching. I think she's a teacher too. AAU basketball, everything else. When you look at the most influential people in women's basketball at any level, she has to be right there on that pantheon of that list.
Alma mater. She went to school there. I think she's won 15 NorCal championships, 22 Central Coast section. She is really good in victory and really classy in defeat. She has had some tough losses in these state championships, and she speaks like a real champion. This really exposes people when you're either a champion in defeat or you're not. And we've seen both sides, and so kudos to her.
And there was
Boys Open Division.
But to just piggyback off just how great she is in defeat, there was that wild situation in the state final after last year too, where some photographer got in, wasn't supposed to be in a press conference, reporter kind of taking her words way out of context, and the fact she handled that with all that class and was just super nice, super awesome about it. When I wouldn't have blamed her at all for kind of being upset about that, especially when, let's be honest, she's coaching kids. Like we can all come down. We don't need, I know exactly what she was saying, and she handled that with the absolute utmost class, especially just after they just had their one, I guess you could say, bad midi day of the entire season.
And that's a good call. That was some guy who somehow wound up with a credential and a pompous dip who should have been ejected. We're all looking at this guy and he's being snarky and rude and second guessing, commit and probably should have thrown him out on his duff. These coaches will answer questions about, what happened on defense and blah, 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 but don't challenge kids' commitment, effort, just to be the sake of argumentative. He wasn't even writing anything down, so that was a downer. But we caught on to that real quick. And all right, so the final game of the high school season is going to be Roosevelt of Eastvale down in the LA area, 34-2 in the Open Division. Big boy game taking on Reardon of San Francisco, 29-1. Whopper game. I don't know a lot about these two teams. I'm not sure Jordan does. Jordan knows everything. But does Reardon have a chance? Because it's always the Southern California teams, Chris Jackson, that seem to win the Open Division in boys.
I mean, I was going to say, Chris, if you want to take this, I know you've seen Reardon more than I have. I'm very much in the camp of, any given Sunday type of situation where, hey, if you're here, it's one game, you got a chance. I mean, I know Roosevelt checks all the boxes. They've been this juggernaut, but when you get in this national top 25 and the state top three, top four, like this matchup is, I think the margin of error and the margin between these teams is so thin. I know Reardon has kind of, had this reputation of kind of always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And guess what? Today's their day at the altar now, and they have a chance to go and kind of silence some of those critics. And I mean, how else could you do it with a statement against Roosevelt, who's been what I think number one or two in the nation all season long, led by was it Braden Berries, who one of the top recruits in the country. He has offers Tennessee, Arizona, Bama, Oregon. I mean, you name it, he's got a chance to go there. I think this one checks all the whistles, and it's kind of in a weird way. It feels silly to say with the open division of a David versus Goliath of just where the programs have been all year. But I think, hey, if you're here, you've got a shot.
You're here, you have earned it. None of this is fluke. We talked about the local teams, Jesuit, Woodland Christian, Lincoln and Stockton. None of them won a section championship, but they showed that they are championship material by battling through and winning NorCal championships. So fantastic. I think we're going to wrap that up next. Actually, we're going to sign off on a really good note. Chris Jackson was in the Elk Grove Unified yesterday, sent Jordan and I a nice text as we group text a lot. And you ran into a terrific young lady who plays multiple sports and has an incredible GPA. Chris Jackson, her name, what are her sports, and what was the topic? And I think you said something really cool in the text. She loves learning. So tell us about this achiever. We want to celebrate these people every week.
Yeah, speaking with Kate Myers of Pleasant Grove, the junior, she became the program's single season scoring leader this year. Her dad does the scoreboard. Her dad is the swimming coach on campus, a teacher. Her mother's an elementary school teacher as well. But Kate Myers, a three-sport athlete, flag football, basketball, swimming. She also thought about playing softball on top of swimming this year, just couldn't make that all work, but she's played softball in the past. She almost joined what looks to be like a great Pleasant Grove softball team. Unbelievable scorer, passer, rebounder, defender. Here's the best part, though. A 4.8 GPA, you look at that, that's why Cornell is freaking offering you to go play basketball and be a student. She's taking 4 AP classes, and she said this, that she loves to learn, which is so refreshing to hear because I wish I had that mindset going to class back in the day. Maybe I could have had some better grades and all of that stuff. And Kate Myers is one of those just people that embodies excellence, competes in everything. I don't know how she finds a way when she's got swimming practice also at like 5:36 in the morning, doing all this and still taking 4 AP classes, the 4.8 GPA. But how awesome is that to see just student athletes like this shine, deliver?
It's just amazing. When you sent us her GPA, I said 4.8. Is that all? Where's the effort? And we all have been ripped over the years in this line of work by parents and accusing us of everything from being a public nuisance, which isn't too far from the truth, to haters or whatever kind of rubbish. And then you get Kate Myers' dad, who will send you a friendly note. Thank you for mentioning her there. They get it. So we hear about these horrible things about these helicopter parents. Her parents are teachers. They get it. And so what a cool experience. And she's maximizing. We applaud the multi-sporters. We especially applaud the great scholars who are taking AP classes. If we all were worthy of AP classes, we wouldn't be Stooges, but we are Stooges, and we're glad to talk to you guys. We will see you guys at Golden One Center. For Joe Davidson, Chris Jackson, Jordan Georgeson, we're the Three Stooges. Take a look, follow us, pass the word. We appreciate everybody out there, and we appreciate this great grind of regional sports coverage in the CIF. See you guys soon.